Hi there, I'm Dr. Myrdalis Diaz Ramirez, and this is the Design Your Physician Life podcast. Welcome to this episode brought to you by our maxAllure Mastermind, which is an exclusive personal and professional development program for physicians. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Edward Park. He actually discusses with us how to explore exosomes for your clinical practice. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Design Your Physician Life podcast, where you will get excited about being a physician, learn the tools that can help boost your success, and great tips from successful doctors. Join us to unlock the keys to an amazing physician life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Myrdalis Diaz Ramirez.
Well, guys, welcome to this episode of Design Your Physician Life. I'm very excited. Here today we have Dr. Ed Park. He was actually trained as a medical doctor at Harvard and Columbia and is now a key opinion leader in anti-aging and regenerative medicine. His clinical practice is using stem cell exosomes, has helped many people reverse the effects of aging and injury. Now he has developed an online masterclass for physicians seeking to expand their practices to include this cutting-edge modality. Welcome here, Dr. Park. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Myrdalis. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We're very excited. We want to learn all about these exosomes and your business in doing this and how you're going through the United States helping patients. And that's how I met you. You were giving a conference and I became inspired by your work. So that was very exciting. And I'm glad that you're here today. Before we go into all of that stuff, we're going to first talk about little Ed, young Ed. Which Ed was the one who decided to be a physician?
Yeah, I was, the tiger moms. My mom was a tiger mom. When they grew up in Korea, they didn't afford the school. So she said, I'm going to someday force my kids to go to the best school I can find. So she did that and worked very hard. So we ended up going to Harvard, me and my brother and sister, doctor, lawyer. And I guess that's why I was programmed from a young age to be a physician. And my dad was a physician, yeah.
So your dad was a physician, and then you guys grew up inspired by your dad. What type of physician was your dad?
He was a family practitioner. Mm-hmm.
And what did you like about his job growing up?
I thought it was cool. He had a little beeper on his hip.
So you wanted to grow up to have a beeper on your hip?
Maybe. It's nice. I knew that his patients really appreciated him and that he did his best to try and help them. And he was always very curious and good at problem solving. So
tell me how you chose your specialty.
When we went through the rotations at Columbia, we did everything. I like psychiatry. But pediatrics, I thought I would be a pediatrician, but I didn't like all the suffering in the kids. It's hard to communicate with them. And during that time, we had a lot of HIV, AIDS, these poor kids with the tuberculosis and everything. So I thought, well, I want to be in a happy specialty. And I think OBGYN is a happy one. Babies being born, good outcomes. So that's kind of how I chose that.
And that gave you that happiness. But nowadays you're doing this exosome business. So how do you jump from being an OBGYN into finding this world of the stem cells and exosomes?
Yeah, I got into anti-aging about 15 years ago when my dad was sick with brain cancer. So I figured out that telomeres are important, and that's kept me kind of young. For 15 years, I take a telomerase activator. And then I slowly morphed into more of the regenerative medicine, helping people. About 4 years ago, I found a lecture at A4M, like you saw me. I saw a doctor who claimed to be in a motorcycle accident, broke ribs, collarbone, ankle, and he looked amazing. Just 4 weeks later, he told the story about how he snuck the exosomes into his IV at the hospital. And I just thought, wow, this is amazing. I knew about exosomes, but I wanted to try it. So I did it on my knee, my Achilles, and my rotator. And indeed, they got better after injection. So gradually, I started to expand that practice. And now it's 5 different states and done over 1,400 injections and everywhere you can imagine. And I'm seeing some really good results, about a 70% response rate. And most importantly, fixing stuff that we really just can't fix usually, like nerves and arthritis and tendinosis. So it's really a gratifying part of the practice.
Well, this is very inspiring to me that you can find the, healing within ourselves really is in this way. And I've loved regenerative medicine for a very long time. I also learned it through A4M. So A4M, for you guys who don't know, this is anti-aging, the Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. That's what the 4 A's are. And I'd like to ask you, because normally this is a podcast to help physicians learn about entrepreneurship. But before we get there, not many people really know about exosomes. And that's why you're going around this and a novel concept, not from that long ago. So can you explain to us a little bit more about exosomes, what they are, and why do you say that right now we're able to heal things that normally we wouldn't be able to?
Well, okay. So in the mid 80s, they discovered exosomes, but it wasn't until about 13 years ago that they started looking for them. So if you look at the high school biology textbooks, it shows the cell and the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, and it shows the cells extruding protein. But in general, we found out over the last 14 years that's not how cells communicate. They package them, they protect them like messages in a bottle. So just like the people who got the mRNA vaccine, it's a 100 nanometer phospholipid sphere with mRNA in it and proteins and some lipids. So this is how cells communicate, and they're just starting to realize the role of these plays in all plants and animals, all disease states. But so what really happens when you get injured is that you make your own exosomes. Your stem cells come in, the mesenchymal stem cells, and they secrete these exosomes that regenerate. They create new blood vessels. Sometimes they cause dedifferentiation of the local ones. So cells that are copied out and old can act young again for a while and regenerate cartilage and ligaments and tendons. So this is really what your body will do anyway, but you get like a massive dose of it from a donor that was born many years ago by C-section, a donated placenta. And they went ahead and they took these stem cells and they froze them. And every 4 to 6 weeks, they create a fresh batch. And so your body doesn't really know that it didn't make these exosomes. So it's like the signals that you're making are not enough. They're not strong enough and they don't have enough of them. So when we do the exosomes, that can sometimes cause some remarkable regeneration that you would do naturally, but just not as capably and not as efficiently.
Tell me about some of these patients that you've seen things that you say, oh my goodness, how did that happen? And that you're so grateful to have been there in that position where you could do something that no many other doctors have been, able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that stand out are, neurological things. I remember there's one gentleman who had numb feet from standing in a degreaser for too long. And just after one day, the sensation came back. We've had resolution of Bell's palsy, trigeminal neuralgia, hyperacusis. Even had some people recover some motor function after stroke. So these are things that just are not really something you would expect. In addition, there was one gentleman who had leaky gut, mast cell activation. He had terrible varicose veins, eczema, and irritable bowel, all gone after one treatment many years ago. So these are things that your body can't heal. And then sometimes we get lucky and your body, if given enough of these regenerative signals, can do something amazing and really kind of permanent.
That's amazing. My background is being an interventional pain physician in the past, transition to functional medicine. And tell me about a little bit of these protocols. For example, you have somebody with peripheral neuropathy, right? And you say, you tried everything. We're going to do exosomes. Is there a particular protocol that you're following for that particular patient?
The short answer is nobody really knows. But, unfortunately, in our armamentarium, all you really have is steroids, which are great for short-term mitigation of inflammation, but not all disease, especially in the tendinosis, arthrosis, is inflammatory. So, unfortunately, steroids are not often the answer. Sometimes they contribute to the problem by causing suppression of cartilage, and you can even get like rupture if you inject steroids into a tennis elbow, as people should know. So, I think that the way that it's working is just turning on new blood vessel formation. Of course, a lot of neuropathy is, based on microvasculature. Some of it is stem cell differentiation, proliferation. Some of it is dedifferentiation. So, we could go through a list of the proteomics and RNAomics there's dozens and dozens of candidate molecules that they know are inside these exosomes, but is it really one thing or the other? Is it the VEGF or the BDNF? Or I think it's a little simplistic, as if to say a symphony is not made up of just a bunch of notes. It's how they work together to act on the other cells.
And these patients, they come to you and then they would expect to receive an injection into their feet where the neuropathy is, their legs, plus an IV injection. Is that how, it would work for many of these cases?
Yeah, I think so. But everything is very customized, right? So you have to figure out where the pathology is, what's the likely treatment that would help. We had a patient recently with sciatica, so we tried to help her ligaments and disc by epidural injection because the sciatica would go away in certain positions. So it was just extrusion. But in the case of, like, as you said, a peripheral neuropathy, we probably would go somewhere in the distal nerve region. And because they're single cells with long courses, we'd probably hit like a perineal nerve or sural nerve or posterior tibial. It kind of just depends case by case. But the nice thing about the MSK injections is you just kind of inject where it hurts. And that often just does the trick. So
that's awesome. Well, guys, we've talked a little bit about the science. Let's talk about the business part of it, because you've been able to find this niche to the point that you really, we were talking earlier before starting the podcast and recording, and I feel like you're really practicing for joy. You found your niche, you found a passion, you found a way that you're helping patients, and you're also being able to work less, achieving great results. So tell us about that process in terms of finding, this niche for you, and how has your business been developed?
Yeah, well, initially I just started, I didn't know if I could believe that doctor who had such great results. So I did it on myself and it worked. Then I started doing family members and close patients I've known for many years. And gradually it starts to be a word of mouth thing. Like one patient of mine, a friend I've known for over 20 years, he posted on Instagram, and all these people I also know for 20 years were like, come do help me. Yesterday I was down in Newport Beach treating the son, a kid I've known since he was born. He's now 21 with alopecia on the bitemporal region. Treated him. So the majority of what we do is word of mouth referrals, people who 100% believe in it. And you come and fix their shoulder, they say, next time, come fix my knee. Because as we get older, of course, we accumulate more and more damage, and we need help regenerating and restoring function.
Perfect. So now you have that word of mouth, and now you have all these patients. So how do you get to be practicing in 5 states?
Well, I moved to Hawaii because my son was in boarding school in Hawaii and he wanted to be a day student. So that's why I got my Hawaii license. And then as the demand started growing from people watching videos on YouTube, I decided I needed to expand a little bit. So I got Texas and Florida and New York as well. So it's just, out of necessity, got to go where the people are at. And most people can find their way to one of those 5 states.
So people find you word of mouth. Are you doing like any marketing, any advertising, or is just, everybody knows who Ed Parks is because you're doing lectures, you're working with other doctors who are inviting you?
It's a combination. I've done a few lectures at the Stem Cell Conference, Cell Surgical, A4M. I have a lot of videos. I have an email list, a newsletter, but by and large, it's mostly word of mouth, people who have gotten good results. And I think that's the best way. We talk about things like advertising. I think it's a big mistake for a physician to advertise. I mean, usually the Federal Trade Commission will go after you, but only if you're making millions and millions of dollars, which I don't think you're probably going to be doing. But it also raises the cackles of other people who maybe are competitors, because in this space, we talked about steroids, but there's also a longstanding PRP and stem cells. And so a lot of people are making money off of that, and they don't want to hear about the new kid on the block, the exosomes, and they might be jealous or have some kind of threat perceived from that. Even though I do think that this is the next thing after stem cells and after PRP, because those are so immune dependent and inflammatory. I think this is much more predictable, safer, affordable, and easy to use.
So in this case, you're not seeing this inflammation where the patients have like so much increase in the pain for a period of
I
time,
think that's
swelling.
Exactly. That's the key differentiator, because PRP is kind of a descendant of prolotherapy, right? Where they put dextrose in to cause damage, inflammation. And if you think about it, that the way that works is that the mesenchymal stem cells come in to try and stop the inflammation and repair. But instead of bringing in inflammation or bringing in stem cells or PRP to cause inflammation, we just cut to the chase and bring in the exosomes that the stem cells would be making. So we get the final common pathway without that inflammation. And those that do PRP know that the edict is you can't take aspirin, Motrin, because it blocks those pathways. It actually relies on inflammation. So yes, a good example would be microneedling facials. When you do a PRP, they're very red for days. Whereas if you do exosomes after microneedling, they can have a normal complexion within hours. This is so anti-inflammatory. I think that's the key differentiator.
That's awesome. So let's talk about some of the challenges that you might have had, if there's any, for people who are thinking about, precisely building their clientele for exosomes. Are there any particular, you talked about, the lack of marketing and not maybe the competition aspect. Is there anything else that you see as a barrier for somebody who's thinking about this?
I mean, I think the one barrier is credibility. I think if you haven't used it on yourself or your loved ones, then you have less credibility. When someone knows that you personally believe in it because you do it yourself, it makes a big difference. Sort of like a chef that won't eat their own cooking. But I think there's a lot of knowledge deficits we have as physicians. We don't really understand the science. So to that point, I've created a masterclass for people to get comfortable with talking at a basic level about the science, where these come from, because a lot of the questions are the same. Do they come from dead babies, aborted fetuses? They wonder, is it my body going to reject them? How is this different from stem cells? So after talking about this 100 times, you get used to it. But for the physician that is not exposed to where they come from and the isolation and the science, it's important to get that. And I have a YouTube channel, DRPARK65, where I do discuss that. There's hundreds of hours of videos, but I just created this masterclass last year with 20 weeks. It takes you about 12 hours to get through. And we talk about all these subjects ranging from, does it work? Will I get in trouble? What brands to choose? How much do I charge? How are the techniques? How do I explain the science? And then we go into regions like the knees, shoulders, hips, face, hair, genitals, everything you could want to know. And that's like a starter kit for people. But there's no substitute for experience. Like when a person really has had good results with themselves and with their patients, the patients understand, they know, and they're willing to try it.
That's great. So some people, you've described there that people who do PRPs themselves, and then like this being the next thing. Do you see a further evolution, like mixing exosomes with other things? Have you been experimenting, creating different protocols so that we can take care, not only, doing the lifestyle medicine aspect, for example, for arthritis and all these joints, but maybe mixing them with some other components that can contribute to the patients getting better?
I mean, that's a great question. Nobody really knows. I had people come up to me who are doing mixed modalities. As an example, I used to put hyaluronic acid into the knees, but I don't find that it helps. It sometimes can add a little complication. So I don't really think, even the head of the company I use, business head, he said, I think you need a matrix or something, a scaffolding. I said, just trust me, I'm having good results. And now his golfer's elbow is gone. So nobody really knows. Everyone likes to say, but I don't have a lot of direct experience with stem cells or PRP. I will say that because of the fact that the exosomes are so immune suppressive, it could lead to a higher rate of immune cloaking and engraftment of foreign allogeneic stem cells, which could be kind of a mixed blessing. That I'm the one or two cases I did do. This kind of sick lady, she had end-stage renal. She actually got COVID at a family gathering. And then 2 weeks later, she got C. diff. So I thought maybe that was too much. Adding stem cells with exosomes might have been too immunosuppressive, but who knows? But in the other case, a gentleman who had banked his own stem cells, we did give exosomes with them, and it did significantly help his fascial tears that he was battling. So I think you need to be cautious, but the short answer is nobody really knows.
Well, very excited because, it's something that you've taken upon yourself to teach others, and there's a course. So let us know. You already told us your YouTube channel. If you can repeat that and where people can find you, and if you want to share your course where people can go and learn from
Sure.
that and come and
Sure,
do
yeah.
exosomes bring exosomes for their practice.
Awesome. Yeah. My YouTube channel is again DRPARK65. And there you'll find, 15 years of stuff on exosomes and telomerase activation. And the course sign up is at my website, which is rechargebiomedical.com. That's rechargebiomedical.com/courses, COURSES/clinical-use-of-MSc-exosomes. But if you just go to rechargebiomedical.com, you can find it pretty easily under the Masterclass section. And for that, we're offering folks that pay the tuition, they get the full credit back for purchases of one brand of exosomes. I do distribute for this company that I'm currently using. And so it's accessible for you as long as the website is up for the foreseeable future. You'll have anytime access to all the lessons, all 20 lessons. There's about 120 questions. And you have all the forms I use for patient care, which you can download and customize to your own practice name, for consent, for intake, for aftercare, etc. And you can also order exosomes through the course.
That's wonderful. I do have a personal question. People cannot see right now your face, and that was one of the things that we're talking about, like if we use video or not, and we talk about makeup and like makeup myself. So you're blaming TR for your youth. Is it really TR, or is it TR plus microneedling with exosomes?
No, I rarely do exosomes or microneedling. It's really, it's funny. I'm on Match.com, and I still use a profile picture from 14 years ago. I still look the same. Nobody's ever called me a catfish or anything. So I look like I do 15 years ago, and I think it is the TA65 mostly. Like you kind of just wake up like Groundhog Day, feeling the same. So I don't have reading glasses. I did 14 years ago. I don't have any gray hair. I did 14 years ago, and I still wake up without pain. So that's good. And so I think I'm just kind of flattening out the middle-age curve a little bit.
Okay. Well, you know where you can see him. If you go to his course, maybe you can see him in person. Well, guys, thank you very much for being here. Thanks, Dr. Park, for being here. Thanks for bringing so much, teaching us about exosomes, this passion that you've converted to a great business, not only, business, but it's really educating our communities. Any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I think it is a great practice. I think it's really fun to try and help people in ways that are not really easily available. And they're so grateful afterwards. And the margins are quite good. Usually patient, depending on which product and how you're pricing it. I don't like to overcharge, but people know they do price shopping, and usually making 1,000 or more per encounter. So if you have an established practice, people that trust you, then it can really help you and help them. And it's just a great way to learn new things, new techniques, and really expand your practice. And plus, your family members really appreciate it because they get a discount, and everyone's got something going on with their joints or their ligaments and muscles and everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's how I went into regenerative medicine myself, help my family, and that's what leads us. Well, thank you very much, and you guys have a great day. Go ahead and design your physician life.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, guys, that's it for today. Stay tuned for more of our Design Your Physician Life podcast, which was brought to you today by our maxAllure Mastermind. We will continue to bring you useful resources to develop your personal entrepreneur life like we did today with Dr. Edward Park. You can actually find him and his course through rechargebiomedical.com. He also has a YouTube channel called Ed Park, and you can buy his book, Telomere Time Bombs, at telomeretimebombs.com. Thank you for joining us. We hope you had a great time as we did. Stay in touch with us. Visit our website, maxallure.com. That is MAXALLURE. And please don't forget to subscribe, like us, give us 5 stars, and share the love with your friends and family. See you later. Thanks. Bye.
Please remember that Design is not providing specific financial, medical, or career advice. Our only intent is to stimulate your appetite for growth by sharing our experience and those of our speakers, coaches, and guests. Your personal growth and success will be unique to your circumstances and your hard work. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you next week.